All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, today I'm going to cover a little bit about the certification portfolio. And primarily, I'm going to talk about all the different changes and program updates that we have been introducing more recently. So, first thing, a quick introduction. My name is Yusuf Bhaiji. I'm the director for global certification programs. I have been with Cisco for 25 years. My team is primarily responsible to design and develop all the certification programs, so CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, all sorts of exams. So if you have any feedback, suggestion, concerns about any exam that you have taken in the past or you want to take in the future, I'll be happy to talk to you about it, and you can kind of discuss it with me. So today, mostly the slides I'm going to cover is about different exams and what we have been introducing in different products, so that you can get a feel of different certification portfolio. So essentially, what we have done is more recently we introduced a new life cycle management for all our exams. So, how many of you, just for me to understand, how many of you are already certified, like CCNA certified, CCNP? Do I have any CCNPs? Few. Anybody CCIE? No? Still working on it? All right. So, for example, when you did your CCNA exam or CCNP exam in the past, there was no sort of calendar system or timeline where you could understand when is the next change happening. So, for example, if you are taking CCNP Enterprise exam, you didn't know when Cisco is going to change the syllabus or the exam. It was very kind of ambiguous and sort of tricky for most people when they were studying for their exam. By the introduction of this new process, we call it life cycle management, what we did is we created a cadence, a specific calendaring system where it was predictable for every person to know exactly when the next exam is changing. So I'll give you an example. When you're using, let's say, Apple iPhone or a Samsung mobile phone, it is very common knowledge in the industry that Apple releases their new model in September of every calendar year. So, people plan around it. If they want to purchase a new model, they will say, oh, you know what? I'm going to wait for the new release and then I'm going to buy the new phone. Or probably they might say, well, in the month of July or August, it's going to be slightly cheaper. They are announcing a new model. What is actually happening? You're actually planning your purchase. Same model applies here, that when you are studying for an exam and a certification, you need some sort of a planning, some sort of a calendaring system, that so that you can plan your journey properly. Imagine you're going to take an exam next month in December, and suddenly you show up to the exam and the exam changed and you never knew about it, and you'll be like, oh, Cisco, I invested so much time and energy in all my study, and you change the blueprint and the curriculum. So with this system, we are able to kind of be more accurate, and by introducing this, we are keeping the exam more relevant. Before introduction, by the way, this whole process was recently introduced, like maybe 1 year ago. So imagine, before introduction of this process, our exams did not change maybe in 3 years or sometime even 5 years. So what that happened is, when technology changes, as you know, it changes very frequently these days, the exam were not relevant to the customer. When you took the exam, you would say, well, you know what, I took this exam, but most of the things are not relevant to my job role. So that was also a problem, which we addressed by introducing this life cycle management. Now, with the introduction of all these new revisions, we are able to match the technology and every day whatever is changing. So this is what I wanted to show you about the whole life cycle management. So over here, I'm going to walk you through this roadmap. We call it certification roadmap. And by the way, I'll show you a link towards the end of the slide. You should bookmark that link and you should kind of frequently visit that link just to know which exam is changing and when is it changing. So let's say hypothetically, this is a life cycle management. Let's pick up an example enterprise that you are studying for, let's say CCNP enterprise or CCNA. So over here, you see there are 3 quarters. First thing what we do is we review the blueprint. By review process, what I mean is CCNP exam, let's say has 3 exams or 4 exams. We invite subject matter experts who are in the industry doing the job, and then we sit down in a room together and say, look, let's review the blueprint and please tell me if there is any change required. Do you want to add some new topics? Do you want to remove some things out of it? So we kind of make that determination whether this exam needs to change. So that is called the review cycle. And review cycle is usually like, it depends between anywhere between 1 month, 2 months to up to 3 months. Once we do the review of a certain exam, we publish the new blueprint to the customer. So that's you guys. So we will say, hey, FYI, we are going to change the CCNP enterprise from X to Y, whatever the change is. And we publish the release notes so that you can compare the before and after. And if you are learning, you can map what are the new additional books you need to read or sessions you need to attend and all that. And then finally, in the subsequent quarter, the exam goes live, meaning the new exam. So we don't throw you under the bus and say, oh, surprise, surprise, Monday coming, the exam changed. No, we give you a heads up notification of at least minimum 3 months up to 6 months. So when I announce something, publish, that doesn't mean the exam changes. That only means FYI. I'm publishing the blueprint. I'm giving you a heads up notification that the exam is changing. And then 3 months later, the exam will go live and change. So that way you can plan better. So now, important thing, you can see these quarters, it says Q2, Q3, Q4. These are Cisco, if I move over here, these are Cisco quarters. For Cisco, Q1 is August, September, October. Q2 is November, December, January. Q3 is February, March, April. Don't ask me why they did that. It's a financial year and it's done differently. And Q4 is May, June, July. So wherever you see these quarters, these are the corresponding months. So for example, if you are studying for DevNet exam, Q2 is the review. Now what is Q2? November, December, January, which is right now. So as we speak, my team back home is reviewing the portfolio for enterprise and DevNet. And when I say reviewing, meaning they're interviewing different customers, they are talking to subject matter experts, they are validating with different people, saying, hey, this exam, is it still good? Is it kind of, do you want to change anything? So that is the process we use to update these exams. And we call it certification lifecycle management. All right. So this is very important. This did not exist before. And this is something new Cisco has introduced. And every product should have lifecycle management. And now all our exams also have lifecycle management. So you can see different portfolios have different lifecycle. Where can you find this information? This is the link you need to bookmark. It is also in my presentation, but I'll say it. It's very easy. You go to cisco.com/go /cert roadmap. One word. CERT roadmap. Cert roadmap. Very easy to remember. cisco.com/go/cert roadmap, and you'll see this page. And you'll see all the information relevant to the life cycle. So, more details. I'm going to kind of double click on more detail. When I say review, what are we doing? We are inviting subject matter experts. We are interviewing, we are doing all that kind of validation. When we are sitting down with the customer, there are potentially two outcomes, what we call major revision or a minor revision. Because in some situations, technology might have changed too much and it requires a lot of change, a large revision, major change. So, all are one thing before I go into detail, every blueprint is denominated with a version number. Were you guys aware of that? So, when you buy a Cisco Press book, how do you know that this book maps to this blueprint? There has to be some correlation, and that correlation, that hook, is the blueprint version number. So this is very important when you're studying for any exam, CCNA, CCNP, CCIE. You know you need to look at the version number of the blueprint, and then you can determine whether it's and then when I'm doing the maintenance and updates, if it's a major revision, the version will change from 2.x to 3.x to 4.x and so on. But if it's a minor revision, it will change the incrementally 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and so on, whatever the version number is. So we have the x.y, you know how the software version works. Same concept here. We did the x.y. So x is the major revision, y is the minor revision. So as you know, why the minor revision is done incrementally every year, smaller nugget size, and we have capped it up to 20%. So this is also important. We don't make a drastic of a change, because that drastic of a change is actually major. So anytime when we sit down with an SME and they say, look, you know, this whole thing is changing, technology is changing, the hardware software is changing, then we say, oh, this is now going to be a major revision. So that becomes roughly every 3 to 5 years. In the next slide, I am comparing the major revision and minor revision. So, like I said, major usually happens every 3 to 5 years, but minor happens almost every year. Now, mind you, it is not compulsory that every year we must change. No, we must review it. There will be occasions when the SME will say, well, you know, everything looks good, no major change. So we just announce it and say, yeah, guys, we reviewed this blueprint, CCNA or CCNP security or whatever, and everything looks good. No change. But the point is we review it. And the process of review means we ensure that it is relevant to the customer, it is relevant to the job market, it is relevant to the technology and solutions available at the time. Because if we don't update it, then what's the point of doing that exam? It's not relevant to your job role. So, exam topics, like I said, 20%, below 20%. If there is too much of change required in a particular exam, then we say we'll call it a major revision. If it is below 20%, we cap it, then it is minor revision. Will the topology change? Yes, yes. Will the software change? Yes, yes. Will the hardware change? Sometimes, you know, there is a equipment involved in a certain exam. In a major revision, yes. In a minor revision, no. We don't change hardware or anything like that. Infrastructure. Notification, how much time of heads up will we give you? So if it's a major revision, we'll give you at least 6 months so that you can adapt to it, you can prepare for it. You don't want to get caught up by surprise, like, oh, tomorrow the exam is changing. It should be fair. It should be kind of, you know, you need some time to adjust to the new blueprint. So we give you 6 months notification in major and 3 months notification in minor. For all our expert level certification, like CCIE, we give 6 months notification. That is also very important, because when you're preparing for high stakes exams like CCIE, you need time to adapt, to study, to practice. So we don't throw you like, you know, oh, next week the exam is changing. Does it make sense? So this is very important. This is a new framework, I should say, we have introduced. A lot of people, most of the people didn't know about this. So I wanted to kind of educate our customers like this is happening, and I wanted to broadcast this. So, what is changing and what is not changing in the roadmap? Like I said, blueprint number will change obviously because we will say it's going from 2.x to 3.x to 4.x or whatever. But the exam number does not change. This is also important. When you are registering for an exam with Pearson VUE or whatever, you always book with the exam number like 200 301. So the exam number doesn't change, which is also good news. Because if the exam number change, accidentally you could book the wrong exam and you wouldn't know which version you are preparing for. So we remove that confusion and say, no, we are not changing the exam number. And I already covered that part that, we are making 20% or less, and hardware software, I already covered that. So when we make any announcement, whether it's a major revision or a minor revision, we publish something called release notes. This is also a very important document. It's a PDF basically, and what it does, it compares the old and new blueprint. We actually show you that what have we changed. So we will mark red that we removed something, we'll mark it in blue or green and say this is something we added, and we'll tell you the percentage of change. Oh, we changed 10% here or 5% there. So you can actually compare before and after the blueprint, like 1.1 and 1.2. So release notes gives you that side by side comparison of the two exam blueprints. In addition to the release notes, we also publish something called learning matrix. This is the first step for anybody who wants to start studying as a tips, as a guideline. That where do I start? A lot of time, the first question I get from customers like, I want to take my CCN exam. Where do I start in terms of studying? I want to take my CCNP security. Where do I start? So I always say go to Learning Matrix. It's an Excel sheet, a basic Excel sheet. You can download it from the website, from whichever exam you want to take. Search for the Learning Matrix. And essentially what it does, it gives you tips and tricks and pointers of all the exam topics and which book to study, which presentation to download, which cisco.com URL you need to kind of read, which video to watch, which are some of the free training versus paid training. It gives you like a map, a mind map of the whole exam. So it's a very kind of nice document to follow if you want to start your study. Okay. So this is a holistic view of all our certification, and you walk from left to right. We have our entry level certification, we have our associate, specialist, professional, and expert. So I don't think this is a surprise for anyone. You guys know already our certification portfolio. You know the CCNAs and CCNPs and CCIEs. Then we have the software swim lane, we have the DevNet associate, the DevNet professional, the DevNet expert, and then we have the cybersecurity, which is the cybersecurity associates professional. We don't have the cybersecurity expert yet. It's coming soon, next in a some time. This is an important slide. Whatever you see here is the top level, is the high level, and this is the double click of all the exams that we have available in our portfolio. Same thing, you look at from the left to right, you read associate level exams, professional level exams, and expert level exams. And over here you see what we call the swim lane. So we have different technology stacks: enterprise, security, SP, collab, data center. So CCNA or our associate portfolio is one exam model. You only take one exam and you become associate, like CCNA or DevNet or cyber security. In order to become professional on CCNP side, you need to take two exams. You take the core exam and any concentration. Concentration is basically like the elective in the university. So you take the core exam, whichever, let's say you are taking security. So you take the security core and you have a choice of any one of the blue bubbles. Any one. You don't have to take all of them. So that's the power of kind of, flexibility, and whichever thing that is most appropriate to your job role. Like if I'm a security engineer and my job is primarily to configure firewalls, then I will take the firepower exam. I don't need to take the ESA or web security or VPN exam. My main skill or my main specialty is firewall, so I take firepower. But core exam everybody has to take, right? And then you work your way towards the expert level, which is you also need to take two exams, the core and the lab. So the core actually works what I call the double dip concept. Double dip is the core works towards CCNP as well as CCIE. Now, in addition to these, we recently introduced some new exams around multi cloud. We introduced three new exams in multi cloud. We call it network connectivity, cloud security, and cloud assurance. So in the life cycle of multi-cloud, if you think about multi-cloud as a skill set, there are three major components. You connect to the cloud, you securely you secure the cloud, your applications and workloads and all your users, and then you monitor something on the cloud. So there are three pillars in the multi-cloud journey, and these are the three exams that map to those life cycle. So if you really want to become a multi-cloud expert, you should take multi-cloud exams. You don't need to take the whole CCNP, you just take the multi-cloud. Similarly, there is a job role about design architect. So people who are in the job of solutioning, talking to customers, designing solutions, they can take the design exams. They don't need to take the whole portfolio, just focus on the design exam. So depending on which track, if you are doing enterprise design, security design, data center design, so these are some of the new exams we have introduced. We still don't have the service provider and collab. We are working on it, but we already have design for enterprise, security, and data center. Okay. So this kind of gives you a holistic map of all the exams and certifications we have to offer. All right. So the next four slides, or three or four slides, I want to highlight some of the updates we have recently launched. Recently meaning in the last 2 to 3 months, right? Remember the whole life cycle management I was talking about? So here it is. We recently updated CCNA from 1.0 to 1.1. And what did we do? We introduced some new AI topics, cloud management, and machine learning. So very minor change because we kept it below 20%. So this was a minor revision. How do I know? Because the increment is just a dot one. If this was a major revision, the blueprint would be 2.0, but it's not. It's 1.1, meaning there is a minor change. And minor change is good in some way because it doesn't give you a big shock, like, oh, you have to study a lot. It's a small incremental change that you can easily adapt to. So CCNA now has all these new topics, and when you scan this QR code, you will see all the blueprint and stuff. We recently announced AI in our design certification called CCDE. This is so new that the exam is still not out yet. We announced it. Remember, we announced something and the exam comes after, like 6 months later or 3 months later. So we already announced this new exam, and it's going to come out in February in the next Cisco Live in Amsterdam in February 9th. So AI is one of the most trending topic and very kind of, the buzzword right now. So we are now introducing AI across our whole spectrum of different certification in CCNA, in CCD, and so on. Then we also introduced a new design exam, a design security exam. Remember those bubbles I showed you earlier with multi-cloud and design? So security is, oh, why is this? Security is a completely new exam. Again, we announced it, but it is not ready yet. It's going to be ready. Why is this keep changing? So it's going to come out in May. Then we also have the cybersecurity page. So again, you go to cisco.com/go/cyber certs. We have a bunch of new certifications on cybersecurity. We have the cybersecurity associate, we have a cybersecurity professional, and I think it's on my next page. We actually not this one here. We have introduced a new ethical hacking certificate program. This is also something very new. We launched it in October, and it's very kind of trending and new exam. Cybersecurity also, what we have done is this is a nomenclature, so I don't want to bore you too much, but we recently rebranded our certification. Has anybody here done cybersecurity before in Cisco certification? No. Before, it's just a branding thing, so not much change. Before, this used to be called Cisco Certified Cyber Ops, OPS, Cyber Ops. But now we change the branding to call it proper cyber security instead of cyber ops. So nothing major is changing, just the branding, and the version is changing, the whole maintenance update incremental change to 1.1, and it's going to come out in January of 21. So the last date to test the old exam is January 20, and the first date to test the new exam is January 21. So the cutover. Same thing, this is the associate, and this is now the professional. Same thing, we have updated the blueprint 1.1, and we are changing the exam from January 20 to January 21. So if anybody is planning to take their cybersecurity, then they should know that the exam is changing. This is the ethical hacking I told you about earlier, and these are some of the steps how to achieve. By the way, these slides are available later on, so you can always review how to. So I also put an additional slide on how to go about if you are kind of planning to take this certificate. By the way, the easy part is that the course you can easily download from our Network Academy website. It's free, so it's very doable. It's just free. You can download it and take the course. And if you really want to take the certificate, these are the two challenges meaning like a sort of like a test. So you take the small test, and when you pass the challenge, you get the certificate called ethical hacker certified. So these are the paths you can see. You can start from the entry level, you can go up to the associate level, you can either go to cybersecurity or CCNA, and then from here you can go to either professional, or you can also go cross. Like if you are going from CCNA, you can also go to professional, because there is no prerequisites. So there is always this flexibility to plan your career in cybersecurity. So this is the main link that I was telling you about. Please, bookmark it. You can also memorize it. Cisco.com/go/cert roadmap, one word. So that's pretty much it from my side. Any questions, please, you can come and talk to me about certification portfolio. Any exam you want to talk about, CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, my team is responsible for all of those exams. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you and enjoy